Imagine being one of the greatest thinkers of all time, but never writing a single word. This is the story of Socrates, the philosopher whose ideas changed the world, yet we only know about him through his students. So, who was Socrates, and why does his legacy still matter over 2,400 years later? Socrates was born around 470 BCE in Athens, Greece, during the city's golden age. Athens was a hub of art, science, and democracy, and Socrates lived right in the middle of it all. But unlike the polished politicians and artists of his time, Socrates was, well, a bit of an oddball. He wandered the streets barefoot, debated with anyone willing to listen, and asked questions that challenged the very foundation of Athenian society. But what made Socrates famous, or infamous, was his unique approach to philosophy. Instead of lecturing, he asked questions, lots of them. This method, called the Socratic Method, encouraged people to examine their beliefs and think critically. Socrates believed that the unexamined life was not worth living. For him, true wisdom came from realizing how little we actually know. He often targeted people who thought they were wise, politicians, poets, and craftsmen, and exposed their ignorance through his relentless questioning. This didn't make him very popular, but it left a deep impression on those who followed him, especially a young philosopher named Plato. Despite his wisdom, Socrates' ideas were controversial. His questioning of traditional values upset many Athenians, and in 399 BCE, he was put on trial for corrupting the youth and disrespecting the gods. He defended himself passionately, arguing that he was actually helping Athens by encouraging people to think for themselves. Socrates was sentenced to death, and rather than flee, he accepted his fate. He drank a cup of poison hemlock, surrounded by his grieving followers. His death became one of the most famous moments in Western philosophy, a symbol of the fight for truth and integrity. Although Socrates never wrote anything, his ideas survived through his students, especially Plato. Plato wrote dialogues featuring Socrates as a central character, and his works inspired another famous philosopher, Aristotle. Together, these three thinkers laid the foundation for Western philosophy, shaping ideas about ethics, politics, and the nature of knowledge. Today, Socrates is remembered as the father of Western philosophy, not because of what he wrote, but because of how he thought. His method of questioning still influences how we teach, debate, and search for the truth. So the next time you challenge an idea or ask a tough question, you're keeping the spirit of Socrates alive.